Welcome to the Steven Rotsart podcast. I'm your host, Steven Rotsart, and I'm excited to share and bring you value of tips and tricks in the real estate industry, and especially have guests on that have impacted my life and have brought me to another level, not only in my business, but also in the real estate industry. I'm excited to share these guests with you. Stay tuned. Welcome back to the podcast. We are blessed today to have one of the most amazing, high-level, top-producing lenders, social marketer, and absolute genius when it comes to content creation right here in the studio. I'm blessed and welcome Trevor York. Trevor, thanks for being on the podcast today, man.
That was the most generous intro I think I've ever had.
Well, I'm a giver. It is that time of season, and I want to bless you with presence here today.
I appreciate it, man. Thank you.
Trev, thanks for being here today. Do you mind if I call you Trev?
Absolutely.
All right. So I want to get into some specifics because you are an absolute genius on multiple levels. And what's so amazing is because you're so calm, cool, and collected. You have this amazing voice, the ability to stay calm in, let's say, some interesting situations. But I want to know specifically, you're a top producing lender out of Reno, Nevada. What are you doing and what are you seeing? We're going into 2023, a fantastic year, amazing opportunities for buyers in this marketplace that possibly we have not seen in over a decade. What are you advising them of to be able to get them off the fence? Rates are not what they were with these I'm going to call them auto loan APRs that existed, to put themselves in a position to be just in an aggressive situation to purchase a home this year?
So I think that's a super good question because it's kind of two parts, right? You have the market's obviously shifted significantly, which has opened up a ton of doors. But obviously the other part is the seasonality of real estate. And this has been for years, and since I actually started in lending, my biggest producing months every year have been winter months.
Yeah.
So this is a time when everybody takes their foot off the gas. People in our industry stop working hard. They're not really serving their clients. There's still a lot of people out there that want to buy a house for Thanksgiving, get in there before Christmas. That's their New Year's resolution. So I've always been a huge fan of buying in the winter months. And this year it's like perpetuated because we are already in a slow market. Now you have a slow season, which has opened up doors that are like ridiculous opportunities for buyers that we haven't seen in years. And so for the last couple of years, it's been, the conversations I have with clients is, you're pre-approved, here's this crazy low rate, you love your payment, go renew a lease, you're not gonna find a house. That's not what I'm telling them, but that's basically what happens because, they find a house that they love. It's awesome that your rate was 2.6, but if you're not getting into a house, the rate means nothing.
Correct.
So you had 50, I had clients that were submitting offers on properties with 50 offers.
Wow.
And right now we're seeing, and I don't know if your market is different, and I do a lot of deals all over the country, but you are the only person offering a lot of times. So if you like a house, you offer on it, you can get it. I think people miss that. Like, this is an investment that you're living in. This isn't just a stock you're buying to hold and you want to buy low, sell high. Like, you are living in this thing. So if you could get a house you like and get your offer accepted, like, this is the opportunity that we have right now.
And it's so true because I think that a lot of onus is having real conversations, not only with the buyers, but also with the sellers. Mm-hmm. Because I know in our market, I've had to have some, and we have a propensity of being a listing agent in our marketplace. We've had to have some real conversations where I know what the news media or whoever has told you, this is reality. You might only see 1 to 3 offers. The days are now gone where you're seeing 20 plus offers on your home. Of these 1 to 3, we're going to have to work to be able to come to a conclusion of where everybody wins in the transaction. Mm-hmm. You're happy as a seller, buyer's happy as a buyer. And I think you're so correct that there are opportunities for buyers because in the past 2 years, you couldn't get credits back. You couldn't write an FHA deal. Our VA buyers in our marketplace struggled. In San Diego, being a military town, our military clients were overpaying to compensate to get in the door to allow a listing agent an opportunity. And so I think that that's such just a critical point of where we're headed in this marketplace. Now, do you see it next 12 months? Do you see it first quarter? How is that buyer coming off the fence and going, okay, Trev, I'm interested. What are the steps and why right now?
So I usually just zoom out. I think it's a very circumstantial answer on this because there's a lot of people that are just yelling like, now's the best time to buy. The only time that was better was yesterday. I don't think that's a great narrative to give to our buyers because it doesn't build a lot of trust. They just think you're commission hungry, want to close a deal, when reality is there are some people that shouldn't buy a house right now. They can't afford it if it's going to put them into significant financial strain, or the payment now that they can afford puts them in a neighborhood that they don't want to be in. Decision for someone to do that if they have a family and they're going to a neighborhood that they don't like, because I say plan on being this long term.
Yeah.
Always. Because that's how you always win, is buy something and be in it long term. So There are some people that shouldn't. The ones that should, you absolutely take a look, zoom out. Don't worry about what the next 6 months, 12 months is. This a house you could see yourself in for a while? You're going to be okay. Are you good with this payment? Perfect, because it can only go down from here because we're not putting you in these adjustable rate mortgages. We're not.
And let me ask you, as a buyer, should I be looking at a home from a payment perspective, or should I be looking at a home from a purchase price perspective?
There is value in looking at the actual price of the property, right? Because that's like the overall metric at what the value of the thing is. And
Right.
You don't want to catch a falling knife or overpay. But unless you're buying it cash, you're more worried about the payment than you are the price of the house.
Correct.
And that was for the last 2 years what we were telling people, like, this is a ridiculously low payment. You could get, like, I know houses are a little expensive, but the payment's lower than you would have gotten it 3 years ago had you gone back.
Yeah.
So you miss out on some equity and some gains, but every month you worry about your rent payment, you worry about your mortgage payment. I tend to be focused on the monthly payment, make sure you're all right.
And I agree with that too. And I advise our clients, there's so many redundant processes in place. We still have contingencies for appraisals right now. Mm-hmm. We didn't have those a couple of years ago. We were overpaying not to have appraisals, right? We have redundancy of appraisals. We have redundancy of home inspections and ensuring that the property is of health and safety is move-in ready. So no matter what we tell you as agents, there's redundant processes in place to confirm that purchase price is protecting you at some point. And I think so if you can get to a point where focus on the monthly payment, where we run in and struggle with buyers in this marketplace is that they look at that monthly payment, but you need to almost ignore pricing. And I always tell clients, and I'd love your opinion on this, don't look at the price that's on Zillow, Redfin, Trulia, MLS, however you're getting your information from your agent.
Yep.
That's an offering price. That's an offering of a seller to you to look at it. That is not the sales price. And the reason is, if it was a sales price, it'd be an escrow.
Right.
I mean, what's your opinion of that? Because we have buyers that they only want to spend $600,000, but I'm going to show you property at $700,000.
It's funny because that same line is what got us into a lot of trouble in 2008, because it was slimy mortgage people saying, don't worry about the price, just look at the payment.
Right.
They're putting you in adjustable rate loans. That payment triples in 3 years. They don't tell you that part.
That's right.
So there is like that side of the coin where people that remember that or experienced that or heard stories about that, they could get really like skeptical when you say, don't worry about the price, just look at the payment. But we're talking about 30-year fixed mortgages.
Correct.
Right? That's the situation when I'm telling people, look at this payment. That payment is fixed for 30 years. If you're putting 5% down, that PMI could go away. If rates come down, then you refinance and your payment goes down. Like, this will never be a situation in which obviously property taxes, those insurance, little things.
Yeah,
go
they'll
up.
adjust.
For the most part, like, your payment is not going to go up, which is why we can focus on the payment, unlike in 2008 when people were saying, don't worry about that.
Don't worry about that payment. Yeah. And even at best, even with special programs now, 2-1 buy downs, 3-2-1 buy downs, you're still qualifying at the higher rate. Fully indexed. So yes, you're getting an incentive to get into the house early, but you're looking at it from the perspective that 2 to 3 years down the road, you're going to be in a better position with either your job or what's going on with your career, and more income is coming in. So you're still having to qualify that right now at that index rate.
And personally, when I'm doing the 2-1s with people, I make sure that they understand, like, this is your payment. I show them the full thing. This other one is less likely, because obviously we plan on getting raises. We plan on having a little bit more money or whatever. You're getting married, you're going to have another person on in that house helping with the mortgage, but you can't bank on that. So it's more of, this is your payment for the next 2 years. It's a little less so you can save some money, put new carpet in the house, buy furniture, whatever it is. This isn't like a temporary rate that's going to
disappear,
screw you. And here's your full payment.
Right.
We just for the first 2 years you get a little leeway on
like an incentive.
Yeah, just to paint proper expectations for people. But looking at $600,000 houses, if that's what you think some people just pull numbers out of their head.
Right.
I'm like, where'd you even come up with that? Like, we're thinking around the 400 range, and it's like, do you want me to
based
show
on
you?
what?
Yeah, like how'd you come up with 400? But it is cool to see. I mean, especially agents like you that are doing the due diligence of looking beyond what they're saying they're affording and finding them deals that then come fit in that price range.
Well, it's a classic example of like HGTV. It's, you look at this, what do you want? Trevo, you want the white cabinets with the dark finishes, you want this big yard, maybe you want a pool, you want all this other stuff, right? I'm not going to tell you the price, but I'm going to show you that house. And you want to spend $500, but that house is $1.5 million. But it's everything you want. So the reality starts to step in. And the thing about it is that more often than not, and we're seeing this more from generational living, we have families that are now cross living together. We have people, and especially in my age category, they are dealing with their parents or their in-laws, right? So we have multi-generational living, especially in a community like mine, which there's not a lot of coastal real estate left in our community. Okay, yes, we have different state statutes that are allowing people to subdivide lots, provide ADUs, provide these other things that could be offsetting your expenses for mortgage. They could be offsetting your situation where it's bringing in other family members, but at the same time, getting on board of this train of real estate just as an incentive to you. I think you have to be able to step off that fence and go ahead and go, you know what, let's buy a house. The numbers are correct. We can get this to work for the next 30 years. It can only be better.
Yeah. And I think the other cool part, like you just brought up too, is 500 is our limit, but here's everything you want at 1. All right, we can make that work. When you're buying a house, if you're getting a loan, every $10,000 you add to your loan adds about $50 to your payment. So $100,000 is $500 a month to your payment. Now there's a lot of people that just max themselves out to where we're barely getting them qualified, which is not a great way to like push yourself. There's people that are just setting these numbers because that's what they think they're comfortable with. You show them like $500 more a month, your car payment, whatever, like get a different car because you don't need the $1,000 payment, pay the car off, and all of a sudden that's there. Your student loans finally get paid off, you free up $500.
Right.
That's the difference between you being in the neighborhood you want, you being in the neighborhood you don't want.
Right.
Kids going to the school that you really want them to, them not getting that view you want, not pool in the yard. Not like it's a massive difference for $500 a month. People make the dumbest decisions that cost them $500 a month. Like if you really look at your budget and see where you're spending $500 a month and you could get $100,000 more on a home for that same price, you'll start to make the numbers work.
And what's crazy in this marketplace, there are opportunities where you can actually have that paid off in escrow, is that right? And we haven't seen that for some time. And we're having seller pay those so that you can actually afford more home.
Yep.
That's just, it's an amazing opportunity. And I see that continuing through 2023. But you just you touched on a subject that I really want to talk about. You brought up an example of how a buyer can actually escalate and have more purchasing power. You do this and you give examples of this in social media. And it's been amazing to watch your journey from zero to where you're at now, which you have just tremendous amount of traction. Why do you give all those examples? Why are those examples out there and the social proof to a buyer that, hey, listen, this is how it can be done. Here's the video about it.
So I got my degree in marketing and economics. I've loved finance since I was a kid, started investing in stocks like right out of high school. I've always loved finance, numbers, and that's what I knew I wanted to do it in some way in my life. Graduated college, got a job, had some money, went to buy a house, and it was insane how little I knew about this process.
Really?
So I sat down with a loan officer that was one that had just worked with my family. He's talking to me and everything. He said, like, I'm a pretty sharp dude. I like numbers. I feel like my aptitude in that field is higher than the average person.
Yeah.
And he's using acronyms I don't understand. He's showing me examples that he's not breaking down simple at all. And I'm like, this is crazy. Like, I don't understand any of this. Funny enough, like it was shortly after that I got into loans and I'm doing mortgages and I'm realizing like people just haven't simplified this for the average person to understand. That simple $500, $100,000 on your payment. Didn't really know that. No one does.
Yeah.
Car loan helps you, like hurts you significantly when you're going to buy a house. Here's how you boost your buying power by a couple $100,000. So for me, it was, I'm still young enough and fresh enough to know how much I didn't know that I feel like I can articulate that to people. Because a lot of these people that have been doing loans for 30 years, they're numb to it. They think the whole world knows what a DTI is, so they drop that, or what PMI is, or the difference between FHA and like they don't know.
Right.
So for me, I'm like, I remember what it felt like not to know. I'm going to break this down in the most simple way possible to help people understand that buying home, one, isn't as scary as you thought. It's not as hard as you thought. Here's a simplistic way to view it. Because I thought it was like a completely different process than it was.
But because I feel bad for buyers, because not only buyers possibly don't understand that language, I know a lot of agents in my industry that don't even understand that language.
Yes.
And I know a lot of agents that, for example, from a time frame that is prior to my arrival in this workplace, VA loans are bad. We don't want my seller to accept those. FHAs are too risky. We don't want my seller to accept those. But a lot of it just comes down to the work, putting in the work for the benefit of the buyer and the seller at the time.
Yes.
They're not any more risky. They're not any different than any other loan. And especially now, let's say post 2008, there are so many checks and balances in place to ensure that that loan is headed the right direction.
Yes.
Now, there's some criteria that have to still be fulfilled, appraisals, condition of the property. I get that, but it's not like what it was a free-for-all.
Yeah.
And I think that there's so many opportunities, but you do such a great job of articulating those things in your social media. And it's funny how you say that, because I even had a YouTube comment from a guy who says, what you talk about in your videos sometimes, Steve, it seems so natural, like someone would know that.
Yeah.
And then I replied back to him with, you'd be amazed at how many people don't. I've actually lost deals because I was on a listing side and a buyer, literally to celebrate his closing after he signed loan docs, went out and bought a new car. And what did the funder do? Funder turns around, reruns credit just to insure everything, and what shows up? A car. The guy just lost his loan. It's things that people don't know about. It's why we talk to people like, you're buying a home. Don't do anything except buy a home right now.
And the funny part too is like at that age of like post-college, post-high school, when you're trying to figure this stuff out,
right,
the number one resource for you to get information from is your parents. And we go to our parents for like, hey, I want to buy a house. What do I do? Most people don't buy that many houses in their life.
Correct.
When they do it, they're not really learning a ton in the process. So now they're trying to pass down kind of broken information that I've done this twice in my life. Well, one, like when you bought your house in the 80s, the entire process was completely different than it is now.
Right.
PMI was something that was like avoid at all costs, don't do it.
Correct.
Very different situation now.
Right.
So people get information from their parents that kind of keeps them from being able to, build wealth, buy a house, and continue growing.
And it's so true because my parents taught me, hey, you need to save until you have 20% down, right?
Yeah.
But had I known that I could be an FHA buyer of 3.5% down, I could have bought a duplex or a fourplex and have all the other rents pay my mortgage, and I could live there rent free while I still continued and went to school, while I did something else. I got a master's degree or just started in my new job. You would be so far ahead of the game because the only thing I do know in San Diego County that has not gone down are rents.
Yep.
And I know people always say, oh, well, rent's 100%, interest rate, right? Well, I don't really believe in that saying, but it's something that you don't control. And if you can control your living environment and have set costs, you can plan for the future. And I think you do such a great job of articulating that in your videos. If you don't follow Trev, go look him up. Trevor York on Instagram. He does an incredible job right there. Now take us into where we're at, where we're headed from a marketing perspective so that we can kind of get an idea of, you have this amazing traction in social media. Now, where is that taking yourself? The industry's kind of changing. We've had a lot of VC and money come into the marketplace of real estate and lending. Where does that, and how do you separate yourself in that sequence?
So I think the biggest separator has been, it's kind of been in place too. It feels more recent, but that's how a lot of things go. Like change starts and it's slow until it's really fast. But our industry started getting threatened the day that like Zillow's, Rocket, all these different online companies come in. That's when we needed to start separating ourselves.
Yeah.
So a lot of people were really slow to that game. So when you look at like in my situation doing loans, Quicken's the 500-pound gorilla. 800-pound gorilla, what's that?
Yeah, we'll use my case. It's 800. Might be 1,000.
Yeah.
1 ton.
So Quicken is the animal in the space that's coming to ideally put me out of business. Right. And when you look at Quicken, the things that they have that make them enticing for people are, you can do this digitally. Yep. You don't have to come meet your, dad's golf buddy face to face and feel like you're doing everything wrong, which is what keeps people from doing it. They just want to fill the application out at nighttime.
Right.
They want to be able to learn certain steps without having to come sit down. Like our society's gotten like, they're not fans of face-to-face.
Correct.
And we're in a face-to-face business. So how do we accomplish that? They don't want to be seen face-to-face. We need face-to-face interaction. That comes from having a really strong digital handshake.
Yeah.
So this change has been a work in progress. And this is why, I've doubled down so much in the digital stuff is I'm young. I got a lot of time left in this industry. By the time I'm 30 years in here, I don't think it's going to look the way it does now.
Oh, I'm sure it won't.
So the benefits that I have that Quicken doesn't is I have me. I'm the one doing these things. I care about my customers. I'm getting them into deals. I'm reworking deals to make them work. I'm getting them better terms by doing little things like paying off debt or whatever I can do to make sure that they're in a better situation. These online companies can't touch. So as long as I check all the boxes that they've checked, which is making it easy for people to fill out applications, ask questions, learn information, build rapport before they ever meet you. So all these things, when Quicken's running Super Bowl ads, everybody's starting to get more comfortable with them. I'm doing this through social media mainly. Right. So that's helping build that handshake that's allowing me to continue to adjust and move into where it seems like stuff's more rapidly going, which is more competition as far as like more loan officers, more online presence, and then less deals to be had.
Right.
So we've seen that fall off happen for the last year. I think that's something that could continue moving forward. So if there's less deals to be had, this is separation season. How are you going to make yourself stand out? That's kind of the way that I've been positioning myself.
Well, and I think you do a great job of that. And video is part of that. I mean, you do a tremendous amount of video, short form content. But I think that it's amazing how simple you can break it down and where we're headed. And I do believe that we're all going to be competing, agents, lenders, everyone. We are competing for the same business. It's going to be a smaller cut of pie of what it was. And we do have to separate ourselves. And you do an amazing job of being hands-on so that clients are dealing with you and only you. You're not passing the buck to anybody else. You're reachable and working on their files personally. And I think that's what's really going to make the difference no matter what. And I'm going to use this, society has gone Amazonish. They want to be able to get that quickly, delivered to your door, maybe that afternoon.
Yep.
And we have to be able to support that. And we have things in our business as well to be able to support that.
Yep.
But at the same time, it's the most expensive thing you'll buy in your lifetime. I don't believe there are the exceptions. People will buy homes over the internet.
Yep.
I get that. But at the same time, I believe that that's been proven that it's not going to be a consistent process of purchasing just because it's home.
Yep.
And that sense of home, it's indescribable. You cannot have that through the internet. You have to walk in the door. You have to see how the home feels to you and if it's the right place for you and your family. And I think that that's something that we bring to the table, that we support our clients in making sure that they can do that.
Dude, and it's huge because our value, and it's becoming increasingly more of our value, is our counsel. So similar to a lawyer, you can go to, I think there's rocketlawyer.com or something if you want to get, but you want their counsel.
Correct.
Because you're going to court or you have some sort of legal battle. Their value is their counsel.
Right.
You go to a doctor, you could WebMD your symptoms and do all this, but if it's your body and something's going wrong, you want the counsel of a doctor. So that's the same stuff that we need to do is you go get a mortgage online, but you want my counsel because I'm going to make sure that you're doing it right. You can buy a house online. You want Steve's counsel because he knows what happens in inspections. He knows when sellers are trying to pull one over on you. He knows if this is overvalued, undervalued, what you can be doing better. That's where our value is going to come in. And that's a value that a lot of lenders and realtors don't have.
It's so true. You nailed it right on the head because it's like you were listening to a conversation I had with somebody the other day. They walked into a showing and it was literally a sign call. This client proceeds to tell me he's going to 5 other open houses and he's a biochemist. So you're talking about high level education. Yep. He clearly knows what he's doing in his field. So I politely just asked, can I just ask you a question? Why are you doing this all yourself? You know, if I needed to come up with a drug for something, I don't think I would do it myself. I'm not in that field. I'm not a specialist in that field. How about I help you? How about I be the specialist? Because you're looking for a very specific product. It's going to be very difficult for a consumer who's just using the internet to try and find that specific product to be able to support what you want. Yep. And sure enough, literally, I get a phone call 3 days later. Okay, I'm convinced. I'm spending a lot of hours and not getting anywhere.
But that comes back to the fact that you're a good realtor. And I think what happens is like our space, it's a very low barrier to entry. People get their real estate license and you know, there's 15 that you know that are at your kid's soccer game. They do 1 or 2 deals a year. There's not a ton of credibility around. Like doctors go through a rigorous process so they get that validation. Lawyer, I didn't even realize the two correlations I made are doctors and lawyers, the 2 people that have to go to school for a very long time.
Correct.
Which is why we value their counsel. So by being assets that know beyond the, I'm going to unlock the door, get you in there and fill out a template contract, that's when you start to make these big strides. And that's when that guy refers you to someone else. Like, dude, I would not do this without Steve.
Right.
Like, I'm not going to buy. If he had closed with a realtor that, you know, is part-timing it and doesn't really care or know a difference, he's not going to refer that person. Right. And if anything, he's going to be like, dude, I found the thing on Zillow. I sent it to him. And I'm pretty sure they just filled out a form and took a piece of it.
Yeah.
And I could have saved some money if I had not used them.
And it's okay. And there are people that are like that, right?
Yep.
But there are people that want a higher level of service. And those are the people that we really want to make sure that every want and need that they need in their life is satisfied. Yep. And I'm willing to sign up for that job. And it's so fulfilling. I mean, we had some conversations before we got on air and it's just like, those are the reasons we come to work every day because those are the problems we want to solve.
Yep.
And it's just been an honor. It's been an honor to have you here in the studio on the podcast because you bring such a wealth of fresh air, knowledge, your calm, cool demeanor. Probably were a surgeon in a different lifetime, but you're just constant innovation and creation and how you operate is just very well respected in our industry. And I'm stoked not only to see how far you've come so far, but where you're headed. So thanks for your time.
Steve, thank you, man. I really appreciate it. And that goes both ways, like watching the stuff that you do on top of being an absolute like slugger in your industry and is in your market. It's cool to see you taking strides and doing these things to continue to adapt and really like put the interest of the people you're working with first. And everything you're doing is like to give value to people and continue growing your business in a way that is not selfish, which is really hard to find in our industry. And so, dude, I'm super glad we got to connect, and I love watching you do what you do. And
it's awesome,
I appreciate the you giving our industry a good name. We need more of you in this world.
I appreciate your time.
All right, buddy.